Hello friends and welcome. Today we're going to talk about patch 7.31 that came out for our favorite game, Dota 2. This is going to be a bit of a highlight and some of the most common questions I've been asked the last couple days. If you want to see the full review, there's like a 5-hour video on that, but this will just be some of the overview, the biggest changes to the metas, things like that. We can start with Primal Beast. He's the newest hero. If you played Aghanim's Labyrinth, he probably looks familiar. His abilities are pretty much scaled down from that mini game. He's still being figured out, so I don't want to talk too much into it, but I know you guys will ask, so I do think he looks best as a position 4 or 3. He looks like he's just built for low cooldown ganks, like very frequent stuff like that. I think the exact builds, the skill builds, all of that's still being sorted out. I did try both 4 and 5. Didn't have such great luck on 5. I think I'm 0-3, but position 4 has been going better, though I forget my exact score. I've been doing a lot of like trample into 1 point and uproar, and then usually maxing these two and just going for a low cooldown gank build. Next up, Dota 2's probably most controversial hero, Techies, got a bit of a rework. So, two of the same abilities you will be maybe not so fond of, but Blast Off and Proximity Mine are still here, but Proximity Mine is now an ultimate, and Blast Off can no longer be used to deny himself, so that's a pretty big change. He's got two new abilities called Sticky Bomb and Reactive Taser. Reactive Taser disarms anyone that attacks him when he activates it, and then after a set time, it explodes in an AoE, disarming everyone in that area. Sticky Bomb, you kind of like point to target, throw a little bomb, goes around. If it can attach to someone. It's a little finicky, but anyways, it's not that important. He's still being figured out as well, but he's more of a team fighter, not so much just sitting in the same part of the map, putting up all these mines that are going to randomly kill you without much chance for counterplay. Now the only mines left are the proximity mines, and those do beep, so you'll have that warning, and that should help reduce a lot of the toxicity around this hero. I am a little sad. I mean, I know it's frustrating, but it was kind of unique to the game, and I'll miss it a little bit. I'm not going to lie, guys. I know probably not many of you are like that, but this is the new Techies still being figured out. I think he could work as a support. Probably has a good spot, but I will get back to you guys when I figure that out. For the general updates, rather than go through all of these, let me just tell you what my perception of the meta shift has been. We are seeing a lot more early game focused heroes, where if you have a good lane, that's great. And if you get kicked out of your lane, it's really bad because the jungle is a lot harder now. And so any of those heroes who used to just rely on whatever my laning stage, I'm going to go do stacks in the jungle, do a bunch of them, recover, not so easy anymore. So what you're seeing is a lot of strong early game heroes and a little bit more roaming. I'm hoping that playstyle will come back, but there's still a bit of exploration in that end. So for example, it is slightly more rewarding to get kills in the early game, 5 more gold, so very slight. But the bigger thing is that it's not so punishing if you build up a kill streak and then you die. It's not so punishing, whereas before, you would do all this work to get kills, you die once, and it just like goes back to even. It felt really bad. It felt like, what's the point of doing any of this? I'm just going to farm the jungle. So now, jungle's worse, this stuff less punishing, which encourages roaming just a bit. And I kind of hinted at it, you probably already know as well, but the jungle did get a bit of a rework. A lot of the creeps are the same, there's 2 new camps, but the abilities have been either switched around or given new abilities, and they will actually use them this time. They also now scale. Before they were the same the whole game. In fact, now my videos are dated, but now they scale. So every 7.5 minutes, same with the lane creeps, they get stronger, they get worth more, but that makes it not so easy to kill them, especially in the laning stage. A lot of people would head over to the jungle pretty early. By 7.5 minutes, they're already a little stronger than they used to be, and it's been noticeable. People are struggling to jungle. The new camps, not going to get too far into it, but you got an Ice Shaman and Frostbitten Golem Ancient camp, and then you have a new hard camp or large camp, the Warpine Raiders. They look like 2 pine cones. They will use these abilities along with some of the new heroes. New camps. The Kobold camp, the small camp, used to be notoriously the worst pull camp. Still the worst pull camp, but it's better. So if you do a full pull, they typically will kill at least 1 creep and then do a bit of damage. And I haven't gotten to do enough half pulls with them, but it is looking better, where I think you can actually do it and actually get some of your creeps killed off. So those are better, but still the worst camp relative to the other small camps. Those are better. But it's an improvement. I also want to point out some changes to the Harpy camp. For the most part, they're all the same, but they have 2 new abilities. One, the Harpy Scout has Takeoff. Now, you probably won't see this too often because Chen, Enchantress, not very popular heroes, but it can now fly. If you use this ability, it has 1800 day and night vision, and so that could be really good scouting. So be a little wary of that. If you see this flying around the map, know that it's got really good vision, and so be aware that the enemy probably sees you if it's not your Harpy Scout. The Harpy Stormcrafter, it has the same ability, Chain Lightning, but it will use it this time on creeps. It does a lot of damage, so do not stand in your creep wave when you're doing a pull unless you want to just lose 100 health for no good reason. Keep your distance, and on the other hand, try to bait the enemy into walking into the creeps as they get low, and maybe they'll eat 100 damage or so from the Harpy Stormcrafter, and you didn't really have to do anything. Ogre Bruisers also have a crazy new ability called Ogre Smash. It charges up for 2.8 seconds, and then it smashes the ground, stunning you for 3 seconds and doing 200 plus 8% of your current HP. That is a ton, but the windup is pretty slow, and so as long as you remember it can do this, you shouldn't have any issue dodging it. But it is going to take a bit of new learnings for all of us. You can't just like AFK Farmer Camp, go look around the map, because this Ogre Bruiser will smash you for a ton of your health. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to do a little bit of kiting as you farm this camp. I'm not going to go through every other camp here, but there are a couple other new abilities, and the main thing I want you guys to remember is that although a given camp may not be as hard, like clearing one small camp, medium camp, hard camp, ancient camp, relatively they're the same, even though they've all gotten some adjustments. When you stack these new abilities and the scaling of the creeps, it all snowballs together and makes doing jungle stacks a lot harder in the early game, at least. You know, in the late game, Dota's busted, so everyone can do that. But in the early game, be very careful of that. And what this means is that a lot of the carries are now reflecting people who are good in the lane, rather than Medusa, Luna, Sven's. They could do okay in the lane, but they would frequently just go to the jungle and catch up. And they're having a much harder time to do that. So you as a support player, if you're watching this channel, don't plan to just stack a whole ton and think, oh, my carries will do it just like usual. Be a little careful. You can't just totally sacrifice your lane and expect a jungle recovery. For items, we have 3 new ones. There's Revenant's Brooch, which I think still needs a bit of work in adjusting numbers. It's an upgrade from Witch's Blade, and I think the idea is to give intelligence heroes a way to scale a little better with their right clicks rather than just buy typical damage items or like agility, strength carry items that don't fit an intelligence hero the best, but it's like there's not really anything else you buy. Revenant's Brooch seems a bit more focused on intelligence and right clicking. I think they'll still be worse than the other 2 attributes, but it gives you a bit of leeway, and Dota is a very complex game, so there are probably going to be cases where that actually is your best bet. So we'll see if that's actually how this item plays out, but that's my take on it. You got Wraith Pact, which is an upgrade from Vladimir's Offering. The passive is the same with some extra stats here, but now it has an active that creates this totem, reduces enemy spell damage and attack damage by 25%, and does 25 damage per second. So it's a really cool little team fighting item to provide a negative debuff to the enemy, but the totem can be killed. But you can move it around too, so you can use it for like some scouting, while also having impact on the fight, maybe cancel some blinks. So it's a cool little item, I think. There's also Boots of Bearing, which is an upgrade from Tranquil Boots, and Drum of Endurance. So if you have a Drum of Endurance, you use up all the charges, you can now combine it with a Tranquil Boots for a recipe, and you get 8 new charges, which even regain charges every 3 minutes. You gain 1 charge, not like the whole 8. And the active is pretty much the same as Drums, but now it's all consolidated into 1 slot. Now, these 2 items, they are fairly expensive. Well, not that expensive. They're like this decently mid-cost item. And we're going to combine that idea of this mid-cost item in 1 slot, and then skip some of these items down to the Bracer, Null Talisman, and Wraith Band. They now double in value at the 25-minute mark. So, for example, a Bracer gives you 5 strength. At 25 minutes, it gives you 10 strength. It had 2 attributes, and the others, now 4 attributes. That, so on for all of these. So what you're seeing is a lot of heroes building these items. If you're a support player, we're seeing a lot of Bracers and Null Talismans, and in the occasional Wraith Band when you need armor. It just ends up being a very slot-efficient item. or sorry, let's step back. It used to be a very cost-efficient item, but it was slot inefficient because it's a dead-end item. Now, still is, but it is pretty slot efficient now because it upgrades. And so you fill up your slots and you go, oh, well, that's slot inefficient, right? No, because go back to that idea where we can fill that one slot left with a fairly expensive item that also builds up pretty well. So like a Vlad's offering or a boot, or sorry, a drum, those aren't that expensive. So you can put that in the slot. And then as you work to upgrade this item, it then consolidates into one slot again, or at least the Boots of Bearing does. And now you've opened up another slot for your next item, something like that. And that allows you to hold these bracers, Wraith bands, Null talismans for a longer period of time to get the benefit at 25 minutes, but then even hold them a little longer than that. And then eventually you sell them off when you need to replace them, but you're getting a ton of value out of those items. And they all combine to allow you to have an early game impact, get really strong, and not have to get kicked into the jungle. Or even if you do, you've got these items to help you actually deal with the stronger jungle. There's a variety of other item changes, but we're going to skip past most of them. But I do want to highlight that several became cheaper and more open. So for example, Orchid, instead of being a little bit more expensive and typical for intelligence heroes, it's cheaper and fits more just any kind of hero who wants it, so long as it's good, because it doesn't give just intelligence right now. Or, I mean, it gave other things, but it gave 20 intelligence that agility and strength heroes didn't really care about. But now we don't have that. It's now open to all of the attributes, and it's a very good early game fighting item, as well as Diffusal, which is somewhere further down, and this Aghanim Shard. This is the big one I do want to highlight. It's now purchasable at 15 minutes. Think we're all still figuring out which heroes this is best for, but pretty much any hero who farms better with their shard or gets a really good ability or upgrade that allows them to fight better in the 15-minute range or later, they are pretty happy with this change. Aghanim Shard also does not take up a slot, and that's why you can build those bracers, those Null talismans, and all of that, because you can then spend your money still scaling, but not needing those slots. So those are the major item changes, I think, that are all tying together. There are some others as well. You can flip through this yourself, but all of it, again, ties together just to a bit more frequent fighting and building up these smaller items to mid-game items, and then you're kind of like one bigger item that's going to build all into one slot. Neutral items, not actually much to talk about. There was lots of little buffs and nerfs, but nothing was removed and nothing new was added. A little boring, but you know what, 2 hero rework, so maybe in a future patch they're going to change some of these. Maybe relatively soon. I have no information on that. That's just a possible hypothesis, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish we would have gotten some neutral items, but it is what it is. For hero updates, I don't want to go through all of them because it just makes the video way too long. Again, if you want to see like a full detail other video or ask me on Discord, something like that. But I'm just going to go through here and tell you which ones have been doing really well. Anti-Mage, he's seeing more exploration and more aggressive builds, so don't ping your Anti-Mage if he's not like rushing Battle Fury. Probably will still do that, but I've been seeing some experimentations with like Orchids, Diffusals, things like that. Axe got reworked to scale with armor. His ult gives him permanent armor, a lot more axes. So heroes that are good with Axe or good against him are going to go up in stock. Bane, fine. Batrider looking good right now with the shard. More core Batrider than support Batrider. I think the patch fits what Bounty Hunter's good at, but I haven't seen him too much yet. So we'll have to see on that one. Who else? Centaur. I don't even know if he got like strictly buffed because some things just got reworked around. But I'd say it's overall a buff, and I've been seeing a lot of QW builds, which is a bit more deadly than the Retaliate builds that have been the norm. So beware of that if you're playing with a Centaur or against Centaur. This burst in the lane is pretty powerful. Chen, I know he's not terribly popular as a hero, but got buffed. The neutral's getting buffed, really good for Holy Persuasion. So I expect good things for Chen players. Clock got a nice leash talent, but it's at 20, so I don't think it's that different for Clock players. In the late game, it's nice, but like the early game is still kind of the same. Crystal Maiden's looking good. She generally fits in early playstyle. The buffs to her abilities are great, and again, fits that early fighting style. And then the item changes. I think she likes several of the items, especially the drums into the bongo boots, as well as like buying 2 bracers. So I'm expecting good things out of Crystal Maiden, and I've had some success with her. Dark Willow, short end of the stick. I don't know, got a lot of nerfs. And in particular, this Fade time nerf to Shadow Realm, I think kind of painful. Tried a Dawnbreaker 5 game. It was okay. Dazzle, this rework, very different. Not very different, but different. So I miss the CDR a bit, but I don't mind the direction that this good juju, bad juju seems to be going, but I think it needs to be changed. So either just straight up go to 2, 3, 4, maybe even further on the armor. Mainly it's because they individually expire, which means you can't really build them up. You get to like 2 armor, and then by the time you get to the 3rd armor, the first one decays. And using your abilities doesn't even guarantee you get it. It has to affect the hero. So I've just been very underwhelmed with bad juju. I don't mind it though. It just needs better numbers, or it needs to address some other weakness in his kit. If it, like, the ult's not that impressive right now, so maybe better laning or something. So I think Dazzle's a little bit below average right now. I don't mind the rework, but just not the best. Disruptor nerfed a little. The main thing I want to call out here, Glimpse, way lower cooldown at the first level. So you might be able to kill someone with Glimpse, then glimpse them back when they teleport. So keep an eye out for that if you're a Disruptor player. Who else? Earth Spirit got buffed. I know he's kind of a hard hero, but if you've ever wanted to learn him, I think the meta right now fits him, and he got a lot of these buffs. Some nerfs in there, but mostly buffs. Ember, I think some buffs to the hero. Yeah, I might expect to see him more as a core. Enchantress, support, looking good, buffs, plus the neutral change, plus the overall meta, I think fits Enchantress very well. Again, not a popular hero, but I think she's looking good. Who else? Huskar's been doing really well. If you're good with a Huskar or against Huskar, your hero goes up in stock because Huskar's been doing very well in this patch. Io seems to be more like a core now than a support. I don't know. He's better with spellcasters than last time. I need to see more Io, guys. I know he's not popular either, but that's my take. Jakiro changed, but overall, I think about the same as last patch. Maybe a little worse. Ice Path level 1 is better value point, but you're not going to be able to cast it as often until you level it up. Dual Breath lost some damage, in particular the first instant damage, so now you can't cancel blinks right away, but Liquid Fire got a lower cooldown, so I think he's still good, just a little different. Caudle, I think will be good, but I haven't seen him too much. I feel like the meta fits what Caudle likes, though. Lich got some buffs, also good for the meta. Lion, slight buffs, technically good with all his spells, but I think some of the other supports look better than Lion, but I don't think he's bad or anything. Marcy, kind of the same deal. Some nerfs, but still does more or less the same as last patch. Kind of good for all this fighting. Well, she is good for all this fighting, so I think she'll be okay. Who else? Mirana, some buffs overall to her damage. Cheaper, Starstorm, and your W kills creeps if there's a Chen or Enchantress, so I think that's good. Who else? Ogre, I think, will still be good from the last patch, even though we got some nerfs, but the meta fits him. Omni Knight, Degen Aura swapped with his Shard, Hammer of Purity, and this has been looking good. Hammer of Purity is the short cast range ability, which allows you to go for last hits without disrupting the wave, because Purification just hits every creep, or you can use it on enemies to kind of like slow them and then run up and hit them. So gives him more utility in the laning stage. People I've seen pick up 1 point and then go back to Q and W, but I think it's a lot better than Degen Aura, and he fits some of the good heroes right now, where he's good against them. So Omni Knight's looking like a plus right now. Oracle got a nice mana cost buff on Purifying Flames, which maybe helps farm the new Ags, which is Reign of Destiny, which is like this AoE that damages enemies and hurts their heal amp, and heals your allies and increases their heal amp. So it's a cool Ags. Oracle not known to be the fastest farming hero, though. So I'm not sure how much the Ags overall impacts Oracle, but Oracle, great with Huskar. So I think Oracle goes up in value. Who else has stuck out? Pudge, ever prevalent. I really don't know how to take this Flesh Heap change, guys. You know, activate it for damage block. It means for 7 seconds, Rot doesn't really hurt you, but he got nerfs in other regards to compensate for this. So I don't know. It's strange to me. We just need to see more Pudges, which I know we will. So we'll figure that out. Rubik looks great. Lift, buffed. Spell steal, buffed. Goes down to 4 seconds on its own. Ags now lets you steal 2 spells, which gives you some weird combos. So I really like that. Looking forward to playing a lot of Rubik. Shadow Shaman got a heal on his shackles, even though the damage went down. I think that's great for him, though, because mainly you need to shackle people and not die. So I don't think he's like top tier support, but I think this was good for him overall. Skywrath is looking good. Loves the Null Talisman change. Fits the meta. Got buffs on pretty much all the abilities. Who else? Snapfire, I think will still be good, but push towards more of a QW build rather than the Lil Shredder build. So I think you can still play Snapfire, just change your skill build up, unless it's a really good Lil Shredder game, of course. Techies, I don't know. Gotta see more Techies. Who else? We have Tiny. He's a core, but doing very well. So heroes like Omni Knight are great with Tiny. That's why I think they're good. Undying, we're going to get to him, but he's good against Tiny. Tiny support, I don't know so much. But anytime Tiny core is good, Tiny support gets played a bit. So we'll have to check that out. Treant, the heal got changed. You can't retroactively heal as well like your towers, but the armor is a lot better. So if you're there to defend up front, you are stronger than before. So I'm okay with this change. It's just different than what it used to be. Not as good at healing, much better at making heroes or towers stronger. Tusk, last time I checked, the win rate wasn't reflecting it, but I thought that the meta and this, particularly this decreasing cooldown to Walrus Punch would be very good for Tusk. So for my games, Tusk has been doing well. I don't know about the overall win rate. Maybe I need to check again, but I'm impressed with Tusk, and I think he'll do well. Undying, from the last I saw, the highest increase of a support. I think he fits really well with the meta, kicks people out of the lane, and then they can't even jungle. He is good against some of the heroes that are popular right now, that are becoming popular anyways. His actual buffs are not like that massive, in my opinion. I think it's just the playstyle that's changed is fitting his playstyle. Visage, I don't know if it'll be good as a support, but I think these buffs are good to Visage, and I think core Visage is looking good. I think support Visage, probably also good, but I don't play nearly enough Visage to know that. Weaver, busted support last patch. I think still good, but worse. So level 1, you got to be more careful with the longer cooldown Chikuchi, and then the Swarm, not as oppressive, but still good abilities, still a good early tempo hero, and so he'll fit. Witch Doctor, I've heard good things about, haven't played too much myself, but this change to Paralyzing Cask allows him to clear waves a lot better than last time. So that was kind of one of his weaknesses, just didn't have good wave clear defending towers or pushing them, and now he has that, lets him get farm, and Witch Doctor actually scales decently with some items, I feel, so looking good for Witch Doctor. And that's kind of it. Again, if you can only take away one message, just remember that the patch right now seems to be a lot more early game focused. Win your lanes, buy these small items that help you scale and build up. Don't just like skip to some really expensive item that's not doing so hot right now. It's more about these early fights and building towards that with these bracers. If love bracers, buy like 1 or 2 every game, or like a Null Talisman. Just experiment with it. It's pretty value. So that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching. As I learn more about the patch, of course, I will make videos to try to explain that. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or drop by the stream, the Discord, anything like that, and just ask them. Thank you. Let me know if I missed anything, by the way. If you think there's something really good that I just like brushed over, let me know. Let the people know. Let's talk about it. We're here to be good at Dota. Let's go. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.